Yeah, well, when you got a presentation at 6:30, but a ball game at 7:30. This what you look like. Got the warm ups on under these.
So, do you think we should mute our mics when we're not talking? Because I almost feel like that makes it hard to have a conversation. What did y'all think about that? Because I feel like as long as there's nothing crazy happening in the background and we just like give each other our chances to talk, I feel like it's more.
Yeah.
It's like a more natural flow.
Yeah. If anything crazy happens, I'll mute, but I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, now me wearing my dress backward. No
one knows.
This is what happens when you make your own clothes. There are no tags in them. So you have to like look for the seams that mean it's in the back. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I shouldn't be feeling this seam right here on my neck. Actually, I'm going to take 1 second. Turn this bitch around.
Could have been the 2000s Jersey style. You know?
Oh my God. Oh, 2000s. Just fucking cancel the 2000s.
Come on, that was a great era. That was a great era.
No, that was an awful era for South. Embarrassing. It's an embarrassing era.
I was on that MTV Aaliyah jersey and on
those big white tees.
Boys, man, shout out Atlanta.
And people were so serious trying to get the longest.
People alive at 8.
Why can't we be having a conversation?
Because you know.
They know who they signed up for. Come on.
So I guess we're live now, right?
We live.
Yeah,
we live.
We're live. Welcome everybody to the final panel discussion: symbolism versus substance. What does a seat at the table mean for Black coffee professionals? I'm your host or your moderator, Lynn Butler, and this is an opportunity for us. Well, actually, you know what? First of all, I want to take a moment of silence for Breonna Taylor. So if you all could just join me for like some quick silent moment. Thank you. All right. So, like I said, I'm Lynn Butler. I'm your moderator for this final panel. And this is an opportunity for us to discuss how the industry has evolved and how it can be improved through changing our movements. It's I constantly think about, you know, how we tend to like go on this diet to lose a few pounds, or in my case, gain a few pounds. And then after about 6 months or so, we digress back to where we were. You know, I feel like the industry is at a critical point now where we're like taking notice of some issues that are critical to race. And there's no final destination here. Here, as an industry, we need to change our lifestyle so we can stay on track. This discussion is not going to be it's not going to change things overnight or over the course of a week, but we hopefully lead to more discussions and change in Specialty Coffee's lifestyle by starting with, and I've seen it happen slowly over the years, hiring more Black coffee professionals in leadership, or hiring Black coffee professionals, period, hiring them in leadership positions and giving value to Black coffee professional voices. I'm not criticizing placing a BLM poster in your window or on your lawn. I'm not saying that Blackout Tuesday was a bad idea. I'm saying that they are symbols and not. Symbolism is powerful, but substance is the intensive lifestyle change we as business owners, as industry leaders, as influencers need now, tomorrow, and yesterday to get the specialty coffee industry moving in the direction of inclusivity. A seat at the table means nothing if our voices are not valued. So let's start reconstructing what that table looks like. So my name is Lynn Butler. I'm the co-founder of Black and White Coffee Roasters. I've been in the industry for about 17 years. I started, like most people, in a cafe. worked my way through the ranks as barista, trainer, general manager, and then started working for Counterculture Coffee at the bottom, if you want to call it that, bagging beans, becoming a blender, and then moving on to wholesale customer support. The entire time I competed in competitions, very successful on a regional level. And then finally, after about 8 seasons in 2016, became the first Black barista to win the United States barista competition. Also, I thought about it today, I was actually the first Black barista to make it into the finals in the US and in the WBC. I placed in the final round, placed 4th. And I was surprisingly the only Black barista, considering all these nations in Africa, to the final round in the world barista competition, which is for 2016 seems kind of insane. So I put together this panel because I feel like these voices are very powerful in our industry and we need to hear from them. So I'm going to let these folks introduce themselves. We have Ian Williams from Dead Stock Coffee. We have Tamika Lawrence, who works with Atlas, and we have Anthony Ragler from who works with Black and White Coffee Roasters. So let's start with you, Ian. You want to give us a little background of how you got into coffee and what you're doing right now? You're muted.
You're muted, friend.
I said, hold up, I gotta get my mute right. Man. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so how y'all doing? My name is Ian Williams. I'm the owner of Dead Stock Coffee. We're a sneaker-themed coffee shop, if you couldn't tell by the shoes behind me. I actually got into coffee as an opportunity to be able to kick it with the homies. I come from the footwear industry. I worked at Nike for almost a decade out here in Portland. World headquarters is here. Adidas America is here. Under Armour is here. Keen, Columbia, Mizuno, Diodora, all the companies, a lot of them have offices here. And one used to be here also. Shout out M1. But I really just I was working in the industry and I missed all my friends who went to other companies, just the same as somebody might leave a coffee shop and go to another shop. But if you want, you can go visit your friend at the other coffee shop. But in sneakers, you can't go visit your friend. If you work at Nike, you can't go to Adidas campus and hang out. So I just wanted that middle spot. Really what I missed was the community part. And that was also what I loved about sneakers and collecting shoes was you get to kick it with a whole bunch of people who you haven't seen, who you see every Saturday morning, essentially. But everything went so digital. So coffee was really just so I could do community stuff. And then I started, and then I am also a very competitive person. I got mad that nobody was respecting me. So all right, now I gotta get nice. So I'm just hyped to be here. Shout out Lim and all the other Blacks who came before me. It sounds funny, but I think the first time I ever met Michelle, I was like, thank you for all you do out here, and
didn't we all?
Yeah. And so, I'm appreciative of Lim. It was dope to be able to see you on the cover of a magazine that I hope to be on the cover of one day and all that, so I just I'm out here by myself in Portland, there's very few of us. So I think there's 10 Black baristas in Portland, and I think I have 5 of them. So, yeah.
That's how I felt about starting out in North Carolina, man. It was like, yeah, the owner of the cafe is white, the general manager was white, all the baristas were white. And I was like, all right, we're gonna do this.
And Len, real quick, before I even hop in and introduce myself, what's wild about that is, like, as a New Yorker, you hear that and you don't, unless you spend a lot of time in the South, you don't put it into context. The South has the highest concentration of Black people in the U.S. period. Yeah. So generally it's like 13%. The South is pushing like 25, 30. I think in some places it's even higher. So it's like, okay, in Portland, it's still a shame. In North Carolina,
right,
it's unacceptable. Because it's like in North Carolina, that's a bad look. So yeah, like before I don't want to necessarily jump into everything right away, but I just feel like that's such a good point, and it wasn't even something that I thought about that much until I really started thinking, and I was like, oh, in context, this is even worse. Yeah.
I mean, since you got the mic, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey y'all, my name is Tamika Lawrence. I am like Lem. I had like a similar situation in that I started at a coffee shop. As a barista, and had the benefit of taking classes and being able to get excited about coffee. I also, I was at Stumptown for a few years as a first a barista, then a manager, and then I moved on to counterculture to be an account rep. And from there, I made the jump into green coffee with Genuine Origin, and now I am at my coffee home at Atlas Coffee Importers, who are Seattle based, but I'm based on the East Coast. So I've done a lot in coffee. I started in coffee in late 2010. So very soon we'll be making my 10th year in the industry. And yeah, this is a conversation that, and Lem kind of alluded to it before, but it's very much a conversation that should have been happening. So I'm glad, and there are those of us, who have been in these spaces talking about these things at this point for like 4 or 5 years. And so it was good for everybody to get a wake up call. And it also sucked that it took this long for people who have been talking, not to brush my own shoulders off, but pretty articulately and very easy to understand about this for like years, So I'm glad that there's more of a space for these conversations, but this is definitely stuff that people have been talking about and really should have gotten higher bill a little bit sooner. So I'm gonna pass it on to you, Anthony.
Thank you, Tamika. This is a bit of a surreal moment for me as I get into this introduction, because I am about a 6.5 year coffee professional. I now work with Black and White Coffee Roasters out in North Carolina. So Lem is actually one of my bosses. But even prior to getting to this point, my journey started with Tamika. My first cafe that I worked at, some people have heard me tell this story, where I was the second Black person ever hired at this cafe in the middle of Brooklyn, in a relatively diverse neighborhood. And I picked up the job just because I needed something to supplement to take care of my daughter at the time, who was 2. And I didn't necessarily look into coffee or even cafes as something that I would have built a career in. Growing up in Brooklyn, seeing cafes were just like seeing consistent signs of gentrification. Like when you see a cafe, it means you're no longer welcome. Like we see cafes and we know we're going to be priced out of the neighborhood. They're going to move white people and more affluent people into our areas and kind of take away the heritage and the culture that made our spaces what they were. So I didn't necessarily feel like I was going to find a home in this. And for quite a while, I didn't. It wasn't until I actually became the manager of that shop and started to see the change in the clientele that came in to start reflecting the neighborhood a bit more, that I went, okay, there's something here with this. The work that I've always cared to do has been in community building and in creating spaces that people can be their true and authentic selves. And so I started to actually feel like I could be myself a bit more as that space started to reflect more of what I knew New York to be. At the time that I started taking classes and actually trying to develop my coffee skills to be able to make this a career, the first person to train me was Tamika. And the first person to actually take any investment in me moving forward was Tamika. Also the first person that I got to see that did something in coffee that wasn't making coffee behind a bar. It was the first time I knew, okay, cool, there's more careers than just barista, manager, store owner. So first off, thank you for that. Secondly, I don't think I've ever told Lem this story, but the manager that brought me into my first cafe showed me barista competitions pretty early. And this is back when I was still doing poetry and performing and doing that kind of stuff. So I didn't really take it seriously. I was kind of just like, all right, whatever, cool. And he's like, nah, you should see this. And it was your routine, like shortly before you won. And I was like, okay, dope. This is cool. Like, I don't think I'll do it, but this is dope. And now, lo and behold, we are in 2020. I have competed in the U.S. Barista Championships twice. My first year, I competed and came in 8th place. My second year, representing Black and White, I came in 6th, which made me the second Black person ever to make U.S. Barista Championships final stage. But as far as like my actual like career journey, started off in managing cafes. I moved down to Washington, D.C., and for a while, I worked as the production manager for Vigilante Coffee out in Hyattsville, Maryland. During that time, I picked up other roles such as roasting, sales, things of that nature. And then I moved back to New York to take a technician job in counterculture. After that, I moved on to a program for Salesforce, the tech company based in San Francisco, created a elevated hospitality program in the New York Tower. And after that, competed, worked as a tech in New York for a while, and then as recently as 2 months ago, moved down to North Carolina, and now I'm Black and White.
So thank everybody for joining the panel today. I'm just jump right into our first question. So it appears that, it may be for you guys or not, but it appears that our voices at times, for most of us, some of us, are only valued when there's an issue of racism that has surfaced in society or within the coffee companies where we work. We also have the burden of putting in twice the work that our white counterparts put in order to have our skill set respected and to get that so-called seat at the table. And here's a quote about the table and what that means. The table has become a symbol of power, negotiation, and credibility through which one can forward their career, generate a sale, or plot a course for success. In other words, when one is provided with a seat at the table, it represents an opportunity to be heard and to make a difference. I want to first ask you all, with everything that's going on in the news, how are you doing mentally? Since 1991, when I first saw Rodney King get the beat down, that hit me like a ton of bricks, but he survived. And then, when they were found not guilty, that kind of solidified what my dad always told me, my uncles always told me, all the older men in my neighborhood told me, watch out for the cops. And then I experienced that, not in a physical way, but, in my 20s, constantly being pulled over, constantly being followed, constantly being harassed, constantly being illegally searched. And now we have, Black men and women, which really hurts, getting murdered. And so I don't have the luxury to sob. I have to be strong for my family, for my kids, and point them into a positive direction. So I wanted to ask you all, because I'm pretty, pardon the French, I'm pretty fucked up, but I want to know how you all are doing mentally. And as Black professionals, do you feel like you carry that double burden? And for you, Tamika, you're a Black woman. You've got like the whole nother issue that Black men don't even have to deal with, So yeah. For you, it's like a triple burden.
Honestly, I don't remember. There was like one of the many dramas that I got pulled into for being myself online and alive. And I just remember being so frustrated. And I was like, and I think I even tweeted, I was like, if you all had to deal with, like, you could not deal with 1/100th of the strain. You could not. You would be crushed if you were dealing with all the shit that I have to deal with on a regular basis in the course of trying to do my job. And so it's just one of those things where it's like, and just being alive, right? Because my job is like 1/100th of the things that I do and 1/100th of like the person that I am. And so it's rough. Like, I have very viscerally in my mind, when I was a and it was Eric Garner. When Eric Garner was murdered, I was an account rep. At that time, I was like working from home, and I like had a thing, like a client visit in the afternoon, and I just remember sitting on my bed and sobbing. I was sobbing when I found out that he died, when I found out how he died, and I was just like, and now very few people that I work with, whether they're my customers or they're my coworkers, are gonna know exactly why like it would have this reaction, this extreme visceral reaction to what's going on. And even if they feel bad for what's happening, none of them have to feel this in the way that I do and then go do a training. And I sobbed on my bed for 15 minutes straight, like body racking sobs. And then I was like, got a training to do, and left my apartment. So like, it's heavy. Like it's really heavy. And at the very least, like now I feel like there's more, because of the like more visibility, I definitely have more support. So like I can say like, I'm kind of fucked up about what's going on right now, and I need a couple hours. Like, and like Atlas is supportive of that and understanding of that, right? And I feel like this is the first place I worked where I don't have to pretend like nothing is wrong, and where I don't have to pretend like, where if I bring it up and it's an uncomfortable conversation, then it'll be me. You know what I mean? Like then I will be, because I could also be penalized socially, because like people do all these things that they don't realize they're doing when they in interactions with you, right? Where they like shy away from honest conversations, or they shy away from you like expressing yourself as a human being based on your lived reality. And this is the first place like where I feel like, okay, I can be a human about this, and I don't have to pretend that I'm not feeling bad, and I can talk about it, and I can say that it definitely feels different. So I also think, I've been feeling this, and I'm sure you all have been feeling this so much more viscerally, because we're all at home. Like, especially, in the work that I have, I'm at home frequently because like I need to be available where I ordinarily might be traveling and not as plugged in. I'm super plugged in. So I think that makes it, even harder. And it's like, you're not good, but I am finally in a place where I have like an outlet and can be like, okay, cool. I need a couple hours because like I'm not in a good place right now. So I am also fucked up, but I'm definitely doing better, honestly. And it feels more manageable than it has in like past years. So.
Anthony, how you doing, man?
In regards to everything that's going on in the world, it's a weird type of desensitized, if that makes any sense. Just like all of us here, we've been raised by Black parents who raise us up with the fear of what the world would do to us. And I think a lot about the way that my grandfather taught me how to exist in the world, and just how to talk and how to carry myself in spaces that don't respect Blackness and can view it as a threat. And the way he kind of taught me was like, the idea of being killed for being Black was one of the least scary parts of the existence. And the reason that that's the case is it's over after that happens to you. But the fact of the matter is we have to live in these bodies and live with the experiences that come with just having this skin color. And it's why a lot of this is so difficult, because it's not just about whether or not we get to live or die. It's how even the concept of living exists for us. Like the specific one that hit me the most was Trayvon. I was 17 at the time when he was killed, but I was 19, and I remember this day so vividly. I could play it back for you like a movie. But the day that Zimmerman was found not guilty. I was with a group of maybe like 40 or 50 other Black teenagers or Black young adults around my age, and we were just fuming. And it's insane. And we kind of were just sitting there with this thing of like, this thought of like, it's amazing how the Black experience is so weaponized that you can die and be the person on trial for your death. All of these cases end up being, well, were you good enough of a Black person to deserve to have breath? Were you worth your life being spared? Did you do everything in your power for us to grant you the opportunity to walk away and have another day? It's, did you resist arrest? Did you wear the wrong type of clothing? Did you say the wrong thing to the wrong person? And all of these things are enough to justify it. We're looking at it right now with the Breonna Taylor situation. There's no freaking way that those cops should have gotten off. But there are loopholes that exist because of who we are. These don't exist for people that don't look like us. And there is a level of respectability politics that is placed into our livelihoods. So it's a huge part of why I've always been taught to talk and speak and act and present myself a certain way. You walk around with locks and tattoos and there's a stigma on you. You walk around and you dress with too revealing clothing as a Black woman and there's something that they stigmatize onto you. Just the opportunity to exist isn't the same. So I'm not doing well. And a lot of the reason that I'm not doing well, especially with everything that's going on now, isn't just that I'm at home and I'm more connected. It's you can be home and still not be safe. We're getting killed in the middle of a pandemic when no one's supposed to.
And what a lesson, right? Yeah, like, what a lesson.
You aren't supposed to be outside people. It's insane.
Yeah.
So like, no, I'm not doing good with any of that stuff. And to tie it back to my grandfather, kind of presenting it to me as if like death is one of many things that can happen, but the lived experience is the worst part. I didn't start fearing the idea of death and me dying for being Black until my daughter was born. And until I had things in my life that made me feel like I need to be here to live for it because they became valuable to me. But that value does not equate to the rest of the world believing we should have value to experience it. So, yeah.
Man, y'all. Yeah.
I mean, Ian, you're in Portland, man. I mean, yeah. We've had here in North Carolina, well, in Raleigh, the capital where I live, we had like maybe 2 days of like riding and police and riot gear. But I mean, you had like 50 days or something like that.
I believe we're at 130 or something like that.
I mean, how are you doing? How you doing, man? Like,
listen, let me tell you, it's a little different out here. So first of all, Portland is always down to attached to a movement of some sort. They're like, what? Bad water in Flint, Michigan, go get them, you know, and they're like, what? You burned cardboard in your backyard, go get them. Like Portland will always get down with whatever's happening, whatever the movement is, but which is good and bad. You know, I think for me, I feel like overall I'm doing fine. You know, I think right after Blackout Tuesday, we went from selling like 30 or so bags a week online to 1,200 bags, just like that, right? And everybody freaks out and they're like, oh, good for you, good for you. I'm like, we'll see what happens in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And 1,000, 500, 400, 200, and now we're leveled out at about a good amount, probably about 100 or so a week now. It kind of like dipped and popped back up. But you know, and I'm thankful, but that was a lie, right? Yeah. And so, you know, everybody's got the Instagram popping for a couple weeks, and line was around the block for about 3 weeks, and the news came out of 4 days, they came 3 times. And I get the same question every single time. I know, Lim, you're possibly gonna have similar answers. I get the same question every time. What's it like to be a black-owned business or Black business owner during this time? And my answer was the same every single time. I've been black my whole life. This is not new to me. This is just new to y'all. Yeah. And so, I tried to be nice about it, but I really, what I was trying to say was never ask anyone this question again, please. And and also, they're like, oh, you have lines around the block. I'm like, yeah. So can you help encourage everybody to continue to have lines around the block? Or just, I don't want you to be here every day. I just want it to be in your routine. If your routine is once a month, if your routine is, every couple weeks, or when you're in Portland or whatever, like just add us to the routine, not me, because I've got a whole team, right? So, I think for me, it was just draining because all of a sudden everybody wants something from you and they want to answer. They want you to help. I've been cornered. You're like, hey, I got this coffee bag for you. And I'm like, oh, thank you. They're like, yeah, so how can I make my coffee shop less oppressive? I'm like, is your coffee shop oppressive? Like, if it's oppressive, then fix it. Like, if you really feel like there's a problem, take care of it. And so I think I'm tired of answering dumb questions. I'm tired of being the one that everybody looks to for the answers, because I too don't have all the answers, right? And in the city of Portland, like I'm very fortunate. There was a group of people, or one or two people, customers, but also good friends, who were like, hey, for Juneteenth, we're going to raise some money and make it so you guys have a day off where you can close, hold on a second, where you can close dead stock. And I was like, what if I don't want to close dead stock, right? What if the way that I choose to overcome or whatever is going on in the world is for me to be open and for me to serve people and to operate my business, right? So for Juneteenth, what I really want and what we all really want is to be left alone. Like, Black Lives Matter, right? Matter is the minimum. So what we're asking for is a minimum. Leave me alone. Let me do what I got to do. And a lot of money was raised, and I actually felt bad. I asked for people not to do that. Money was raised. People were Venmoing me, and it was, and I was like, I'm not closing. But everybody assumed we were going to be closed. So now I feel like it's going to be bad if everybody donates money for us to be closed and then we're open. Did we make a reasonable amount of money? Yes, that was good. Thank you. Would we have made more money if we were open? Yes. Would I have had essentially my dignity in some ways? Yeah. I don't want to be closed, right? So there's like the weird middle ground. Everybody's offering me retail locations now. Lim, how many times have people hit you up about opening a new spot?
All the time.
All the time, right? Everybody, and they're like, yo, you want 1,000 or you want 12,000 square feet? Which one you want? I'll give it to you, for 50% of your business, And, I've been in conversations that I've never been in before in my life. A lot of closed door meetings where it's like, so if you do this, this, and this, we can offer you that. I'm like, were people getting offered this all the time? Because this doesn't sound like a brand new conversation.
Yeah.
You're a little too confident in this conversation for this to be a new idea or a new opportunity. It's just new to us Blacks. So, I think for me, it has been important for me to stay consistent in who I am and be authentic to me, because everybody making me tired, But overall, I think I'm doing all right. So I'm happy to be here, man. Lim, what you got? How you feeling? What do you think?
I mean, I've done a really good job in my life of compartmentalizing feelings, like Anthony was saying, there's a certain sense of desensitivity. I mean, all the way back from, just hearing about, brothers getting beat down by cops, and then seeing, in 1991, that beat down and those cops getting off. And then from Trayvon Martin to now, Breonna. I mean, like, we mostly dealt with like men being beat and killed by cops, and now we have Black women. And
I think, Len, just an interesting point about that, and this is like
50 years old, and I can't hold all the.
Oh no, I was just going to say an interesting part about that, even that, right? Like, it's not even true that women haven't been like victims. Like, women have been victims of police violence since the slavery times, And the sad truth is like, but you're not, it's not wrong that you didn't hear about it. You know what I mean? So like your frame of reference makes sense because like, and that's like just one of the additional shitty things about like having more than one intersection, right? Where it's like the whole Say Her Name came about with Sandra Bland specifically because there's a long list of Black women who had experienced the same kind of violence, but like misogynoir in our community and outside meant that like, we are not going to report about those things happening. So yeah, like I would definitely want to hand it. I didn't want to it's just like, to me, that was like an interesting point, but go ahead.
That's right on. Cause I mean,
go for it.
Cause when I first heard about Breonna, I fucking cried.
Yeah.
I literally cried.
Yeah.
But, you know, when I heard about George, I was like, I didn't cry, but it was like, okay, yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
And that's fucked up.
I mean, there's a lot that I didn't cry for. Like, and I cried for some, and there's a lot where I was literally like, well, another day being Black in the United States. Because like, again, every day it's like, I have a job. I need to keep getting paid. I need to eat food and have a place to live and buy some kibbles for my dog. So I have to be, you know what I mean? So it's like, I can't feel and that too is shitty. It feels shitty even just to say, right? Like, I'm like, I can't feel everyone.
Yeah.
As much as I would, and there was a long time when I would make myself watch every video. And again, you get older and then you realize why it doesn't have to be that way, right? But I used to make myself watch all these videos because I'd be like, well, somebody should be a witness to what the fuck happened here.
Yeah.
You know? And I used to feel like that, you know? And now I understand, like, I don't have to further traumatize myself to engage in that, but it's still true that somebody should be a fucking witness to what's going on here. It just doesn't have to be a Black person. But should everyone else, you know what I mean? I'm like, should everyone else watch these? Should everyone else be involved? Absolutely. Because it's like, this is the shit that we're all floating around in. And some of us are responsible for it and some of us aren't. And some of us are responsible because we didn't know anything. Some of us are responsible because we do things like call the cops on our Black paying customers. Some of us are responsible because we see it and they were like, ooh, uncomfortable, and look the other way. And those are the people who absolutely should be forcing themselves to bear witness so that they know what kind of place that this even is. Like, I don't want to go too far down a political thing, but let's just say in 2016, there was like a lot of hair pulling and wrenching about who got elected president. And I was like, hi, welcome. This is the country you live in. Did you not know? Like me and a woman from the Dominican Republic who had lived here since she was 16, and at the time we were both 20, or I don't know, 4 years ago, right? We were 27, and I remember viscerally being in a taxi, and this guy was like, and my friend was like, if he gets the nomination, he's getting elected, and I was like, 100%. And I said, I was like, what? It is in 2015. I said, oh, absolutely. And our taxi driver was like, that's not going to happen. And I was like, my friend, you just wait. You just wait 16 months.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, some of you don't know the place that you are. Like, I don't want to hear anymore. Like, and I definitely want to, we will bring this back to coffee, right? But I'm like, I don't want to hear anymore. This isn't our country. Yes, it is your country. Actually, it is exactly the country that this is, and this is one of the better versions of it. So imagine. Like, they're like, this is that, you know, they're like, their country has not been like this. And I was like, it's been way worse than this, and it's still pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah, a good friend of mine said, you know, before we would never have been able to ask the kind of conversation or have the kind of conversations where people would be like, hey, I'm doing really great work, you know, just trying to uplift the community. And I'm not saying that that's bad at all. Like, there are people who are, and thank you, I appreciate that. And there are people who are never doing anything wrong in the first place. But you know, there's where people say like, oh, I'm doing this, I just read this, I just read that. And then my friend was like, yeah, have you read 100 Years of Lynching yet? And he's like, when would you ever be able to bring that up in a work conversation? You know, and not have somebody be like, well, no, I haven't. You know, he said the second page talks about the second page in the book is one of the most sad things he's ever read. He's like, bro, I'm on page 2. Like, and it's crazy, but we supposed to be talking about coffee stuff. I don't know. We supposed to talk.
Yeah.
I just want to add in, there's a lovely privilege in being able to pretend to be aloof. There is a beautiful privilege in being able to be like, oh, I didn't know our country was like that. One, yes, you did. if you didn't, you would clearly have been responding to a bunch of these things more viscerally. The masses of people would be responding to this differently. The blanket, how can I help you guys? What does it feel like being a Black person in these times? These questions are not for us. You're not doing anything for us by asking us to answer what we already know. You are trying to cover your own guilt and give yourself some type of like cookie to feel like, hey, I'm doing the work to be there for the Black people because this is what it sounds like.
And I don't think it's always that self-serving, but I think anybody that's known me longer than 5 minutes, you'll hear me say that impact is always greater than intent. I almost don't care what your intent was.
Right.
And the truth is, obviously, I am going to take into account your intent, but you have to say it that dramatically so people understand that, like, you cannot center whatever you meant to happen, So it's like, I understand that, like, I do feel like many people who asked me that question I don't think it was self-palliative at all. I do believe that they were trying to check in on me. And I would say some people knew how to do it in a way where I was like, yes, like this, because this is a person who is recognizing, oh, this is more difficult for you. And to me, that's better than being like, and how's the weather? So like, I definitely appreciate that. But I do hear what you're saying. And I do still think people need to be more thoughtful, right? I'm like, because I don't always care what you meant. And because they can get stuck there. Well, I didn't mean to do this. I didn't mean to do that. And I was like, well, cool. But like, if it still ends up being bad for people, does it matter? And that's for everybody. That's a standard that I hold for myself. It's not just like something I'm leveling against white people. So I just think this is a thing that people need to think about. Like, okay, even if I meant this to be good, it wasn't. Like, I cannot get stuck in the feeling part of it because my feelings are just not. And I think that's what people don't understand. Like, a lot of the inequality is wrapped up even in that you believe that your feelings matter more than my actual lived reality. Like, think about that. That's a problem. That those scales are not balanced. Anyway, Lem, I'm gonna let us talk about coffee at some point.
People still don't know about Emmett Till, and I encourage people to Google Emmett Till, a young brother who was murdered, lynched, because a white woman said he whistled at her. And then, decades later,
she admitted that she lied.
Yeah, she lied, So Google,
and I was like, put her in the jail. Put her ass in the jail. Put her in. I don't even like jail, and put her ass in there because you cannot. Again, Lem is right. You need to Google it. And so it's like these things have been going on forever. And if you didn't know about them, it's because you're insulated, and you don't have to spend a lot of time in the apology stage for having been insulated. So you need to bring yourself up to speed with the myriad of resources that already, it's like, this is the thing, Black people have been pouring themselves out beautifully, exquisitely, articulately onto paper for centuries.
Yeah.
Literally, so it's like the information, and the sad truth is like, there is like a collective. First of all, I just want to say being Black is amazing, swaggy, softy.
It's
I'm like, I don't want to get lost in the conversation. Okay, being Black is wonderful. Being Black in America kind of sucks. Okay, but being Black generally is delightful. But there is also like something that was really painful for me to realize is I was like, all the feelings that I feel, none of them are even original. All of the things that I'm going through right now, they don't even just belong to me. This is like collective ancestral pain that I have in common with people. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is not, so whenever people are like, well, I would like to know what, how you feel about this. I was like, read Fannie Hamer. Read Fannie Lou Hamer. She can tell you exactly how I felt about this because not enough has changed here for it to be any different. Read Ida B. Wells. You don't even need to talk to someone living now because sadly, all of this stuff is so repetitive. And I just remember being like, damn, even what is happening to me right now is not original. Like every feeling I'm having is like there's like a shared collective pain for Black folks. And it's not just here, definitely in Central America. I just want to say, folks, when you are sourcing coffee, these are questions, things that you should think about because Black people are everywhere. A lot of Black people in Colombia, a lot of Black people in Brazil, a lot of Black people in Honduras, a lot of Black people in El Salvador, a lot of Black people all over the place.
Yeah.
So if you look at the same percentage that there are in the US and greater in Colombia, right? So people might call themselves different things and the percentages might be 8 or 9 instead of 13 or whatever, but it's like, these are things that people need to be thinking about, because like, that's not, this is a, you know, they just murdered somebody in Cauca, and in Honduras, they have taken 5 Black activists, 5 Garifuna activists hostage. Like, these are not even just to us, you know, and they can't get them released till now, right?
Yeah.
So this is not even like, and that's tragic. And it also means that like, the literature is out there, like it all exists. So yeah.
So
Ron, back to you.
I'm going to set up this next question with a question for Black professionals in the audience who are listening, business owners in the audience that might be listening. And I want you to marinate on this question all weekend. You know, on Monday, when we come together for the coffee group chat, I want you to chime in. So the question is, do Black coffee professionals have Black mentors for growth? And the reason why I asked this is because when I started in coffee, like I said, in 2003, the owner of the coffee shop was white, white woman. The general manager, she was a white woman. So I only expected to be in coffee for like 6 months, and I was going to be out, you know. And then I discovered competitions, and I wanted to, you know, when I first competed, I did horribly, and you know, I couldn't go out like that. So I had to, you know, get it together. And I reached out to Cindy Chang. So my first mentor in coffee was a Taiwanese woman. And Cindy is an amazing person. And then, you know, she became my coach. And when I got a job at Counterculture, my next mentor, in addition to Cindy, was Peter Giuliano. You know, and this is a white man, and there weren't Black men in coffee. I met one Black guy from Eastern North Carolina. He was just getting into coffee, just like I was, but I just didn't know of any Black people in coffee that I could reach out to and see as mentors. So my question to you guys is, well, first, mentorship is very important for retaining not only good employees but great employees. So for you all, who are some of the mentors you had coming up in the industry? They could be in the industry or outside the industry, and in what ways do these mentors impact your coffee career?
I had Emily Miller, who at the time was one of the managers at Stumptown. She now lives in London. She's not in coffee anymore. But Emily Miller and Liz Hudson at Stumptown, and I would say Teresa Von Fuchs, who is now at Bellwether, but was my boss at Genuine Origin. And actually, like, I think just quickly, like the state of coffee, the way that it is now, right? It can't even be just up to the few Black people who are in coffee to be the mentors. Like you know what I mean? So it's like those people seeing me for the person that I am and investing in me because they could tell that I was passionate and a hard worker, and fully supported me. Like to this day, if something good happens to me in coffee, either one of them will write me and be like, I'm so proud of you, provided opportunities for me, made me feel supported. And that changed the game. Like it was, you know, and I was lucky. This was at my first, and I say this all the time, that I had a charmed specialty coffee career. And I do believe that. It was at my first job. And all that mattered to those people who both hired me and made me maybe the first ever Black Stumptown employee. I don't know, certainly the first Black Stumptown employee in New York. And they brought me on board. And they made me feel welcome, and I loved it, and I worked hard, and they rewarded that hard work I didn't have to do anything like outside of to get them to see my worth. I did not feel like that I had to work harder than other people. I was really, in that particular situation, I was just so lucky to be brought on by those people, by those two, and have their support. And same with James Fairbrass, who was the manager at the time, right? Like they were just like, this is a hard worker, she's fun, she's passionate, like, we want to invest in her. So that meant everything to me. You know, it's why I was in It's why I was in coffee to begin with. Is why I was excited about it. Always grateful to Tommy and Ever and Katie Cargiulo, who taught me classes in a way that was fun and engaging and made me feel excited about coffee. So the mentors that I've had, none of them have been Black, but they've meant everything to me in my career. So I encourage more people to be willing to, see if you're judging all of your staff fairly, because you might not be, and see about extending yourself to people that don't look like you. Because like the people that were willing to do that for me, like changed the game for me. So yeah.
Same here, yeah.
That's dope. Yeah, I didn't have I had the internet, and I had some people who I saw on some books and stuff like that. Other than that, I was very fortunate. A mentor of mine, his name is Keith Shodine, who I've had since I was maybe 16. I mentioned it to him that I was thinking about opening this coffee shop. I had this coffee shop idea, and he was like, "Oh, he's a real estate." So he's like, "Oh, I sold homes to this nice, these two guys that own some coffee shops out here. They own Insomnia Coffee, and they just started this thing called Dapper and Wise." And so Evan and Tyler from Dapper and Wise actually I approached them and said, "Hey, I'm interested in doing this coffee thing. Would you guys be willing to put a coffee shop inside my sneaker gallery store place?" And they were like, "No, that doesn't sound like anything that we would be interested in. But also, what if we just show you how to do coffee and then you can just do it yourself?" And I was like okay. And as I started to look into it, more and more and more, all I saw was Lim and Michelle. That's it. And so, I just was like, well, I guess if, Michelle's wherever she is, I think she was in LA at the
Phoenix
time.
at the time. Yeah, Phoenix.
Yeah. But then like on the way to Melbourne and like, all that kind of stuff. And then Lim was, I'm from Virginia. So, I'm saying 2 up, 2 down. Lim was all the way on the East Coast, and I think the next year you won the championship. I'm saying young belt holder, and so I didn't really know what to do, so I just would go to throwdowns because I heard that's where the people were, and I don't look like a barista, so baristas didn't talk to me. I don't look like an owner, so owners didn't talk to me. When I went to talk to suppliers or whatever it might be at, Coffee Fest or I started out Coffee Fest. Nobody listened to me because I just didn't look like anything. So I just was kind of on my own for a while, and then met one person who worked at. Their name is Sid. Worked at Kova. Next time I went to another throwdown, Sid was like, "Oh, this is Ian. He works at that place. What's it called again?" And I was like, "Dead Stock." Yeah, Dead Stock. And I had the coffee hat in the Compton font, and they were like, "Oh, we like your hat," And I had my little gold chain, and I was pouring against people. I was so terrible, like you have no idea. But I just was like, I got to do it to prove to people that I'm not afraid of being here,
Yeah.
And then after that, I met Abner out in Puerto Rico. Yeah, met Abner when he was at Barista. I just was like, "Hey man, you seem like a cool guy. We should be friends." And he was like, "Sure." and oddly enough, knowing Abner made other people respect me because he walked into a throwdown one time, and everybody was like, "Abner, Abner," and he was like, "Yeah." And then he was like, "Hey, sneaker coffee guy," and they were like, "Yeah." And so that was pretty cool. But then after that, I just was like, "Well, I guess I just got to be everywhere and meet everyone, so people know that I'm not scary to them." And then I just started to meet more people. I met Miles. I met Tamika. I saw Anthony out here about to, getting on the stage. But then I also remembered that I have like this halo of people behind me who are watching. And so, I wanted to do what I could to represent. But, there are a lot of people who are mentors to me. And there's some people who are mentors that don't know that they're mentors, right? Like Anthony, I had no idea that you did poetry until you said it earlier, but I could see that in your presentation when we were in LA. And I got the opportunity to bring my nephew to LA who wants to present. And he saw that and was like, I'm gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? So, which oddly enough is choking me up right now. So I'm really appreciative for like all y'all. And
there's nothing odd about that. That's very sweet. That's very sweet.
Yeah.
Crying is good and healthy.
Right?
Healthy.
So,
what about you, Anthony?
If we're talking about career mentors, and this has a lot to do with like my teaching background and the way that I see mentorship. I didn't feel like I had like mentors. Like the closest that I could say that I had at any point was the connection with Tamika when she was my account rep. That was probably the person I talked to the most about coffee before anyone knew I did coffee. And the only reason people knew I did coffee is because I competed. I didn't come from a cafe where like there was a solid education program. I started in my first cafe in a place where the owner was like, if I have to come in, that means something's wrong. Y'all figure it out and do what needs to be done. So I don't need to come out and put out fires. And you know who that owner is. So you know exactly what I'm talking about, Timmy. As I moved to DC and started trying to make this an actual career for me, the first cafe I went to, they dangled general managership and opportunities in front of me and used that as their way to keep me there, while paying me $9 an hour to work in DC, and asked me to work ridiculous hours, asked me to cover in and fill the holes of everybody else's flaws, and did not offer me any type of guidance. It was all figure it out on the bar, trial and error. Okay, cool. I did this thing at work. Let me go home and read about this to find out why this happened. There was a lot of self-taughtness that happened with my like growing. And then eventually when I got to Vigilante, it was just the same mentality of, hey, look, I'm going to let you guys know that my goal one day is to open up my own cafe. Or that's what I thought it was in 2018 at that time. And the owner was like, all right, look, I'll put the resources in front of you. I'll let you be willing to look into whatever in here that you want and you figure it out for yourself. Go ahead. But it wasn't like a direct mentorship where anyone was like showing me the ropes. It was very put my head down, find the information and do with it what I will. And the whole part of me competing, the first time that I competed was I didn't have anyone to co-sign that I knew what I was talking about. The only way I felt like I know that I'd actually learned what I was doing was to go to the space where all the experts were. So that was what competition was for me initially. It was to find out that I knew what I was talking about. So no, I don't feel like I had mentors in this. I had some social mentors. Look at J.R. Harris, who was the first person to put me in a position to be able to get out of front of housework. Obviously, Tamika, like I said, Lem, after we met at Double Dutch in New York on that very crazy day, you've always looked out for me. Adam Jackson Bay looked out for me while I was in DC, and that carried over to when I finally made it into going to these national events. It'd be like, hey, look, this is my friend Anthony from DC. It was kind of one of those moments where people finally started to talk to me because someone they liked said I was okay. But yeah, no, as far as like me trying to figure out the coffee stuff, a lot of that was being self-taught and being very stubborn and refusing to let people shut me out of information.
So hopefully everyone kind of understands the weight of that question, because as we move through time with especially coffee industry, it's been in a weird place and it's getting better, and we want it to keep moving in that positive direction. So I mean, man, time flies, y'all.
Right?
So Tamika, you have been very instrumental in Black and White getting off the ground with some really dope coffees. I mean, from a conversation that we had before the panel, you had brought up the fact that you are probably the only Black woman in green coffee sales that doesn't own her own company. So my question for you is, from your experience working for coffee companies and importers, what does a seat at the table mean for you?
I think for me, I do always start off by saying like I have had what I would refer to as like a charmed coffee career where I have been fortunate. I have had mentors, and I feel like all of those things were instrumental to me. Teresa Von Fuchs literally meeting me, having dinner with me is the reason why I get to even work in green coffee now. Do you know what? And like that is a hard transition to make. And someone was like, "You've never worked as a salesperson. You also have never worked in green coffee, but I think you can do this." And so like I think and frankly that was the way, it was like it wasn't that I probably wouldn't even have applied for that opportunity if it was on LinkedIn. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't going to put myself in that place. It was like somebody saw something in me and was like, I think that you can do this. And I do, and I think that that's a really important part of like what is necessary. Like, and I'll be honest, what I feel like importers have as far as like people of color working for them and existing in their spaces is a pipeline problem, right? Like I started in a cafe and I did a bunch of things that gave me the kind of experience, like training with cupping, like doing a lot of coffee prep myself, spending a lot of time talking to roasters. Like I got to do a lot of things that put me in a position to be able to have this job, right? Like you cannot be a person off the street that jumps into green coffee sales because there's so much stuff that you need to know. And I think especially as a person of color, right? Like there's a lot, if people don't already know who you are, there's a lot that you have to do to position yourself as somebody that knows what they're talking about. And so it's like, if we want like for importers, like racial makeup to look different, cafe owners need to do a better job. Roasters need to do a better job. Like anybody in the pipeline needs to do a better job at extending people the hand to come in, because you can't, you know what I mean? Like, so for me at this point in my coffee career, having done a bunch of public stuff and like, it doesn't feel like it did when I started selling green coffee in 2016, right? So like, I do feel like, okay, I'm in a good place as far as like where my seat is at the table, but that's like not enough to change the face of what coffee looks like, right? And so it's like I am always imploring everybody else, like hire people at the cafe level, hire people of color at the cafe level, give them the same opportunities that you gave somebody else. Sometimes if you want to be restorative, you're going to have to do more than do what you do just for everyone else, because again, I was not going to put myself up for that. Teresa had to say to me, I see this in you. I think that you should do this. And now 2020 Tamika is different than 2016 Tamika, but that was an important thing that somebody saw and did for me. And there needs to be more of that, more extending yourself, more extending opportunities, more being realistic about what the world looks like, more creating workspaces that they can come into and be successful. So not just you being willing to hire them. Okay, you can hire them, but also hire them and hire people that know how to work with people of color, deal with instances of racism as they come up in the cafe, talk openly about what is going on. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the stuff that you need to do. You can't just hire a person of color and then throw them in there, knowing that the world exists as it does, and expect everybody to be successful, because not everyone's going to be able to brush it off. Like I grew up in Hershey, Pennsylvania, between Hershey, Pennsylvania and New York, because that's where my boarding school was. I have a lot of shared cultural markers with white folks. Not every Black person is going to have that experience, right? So it's like, it feel good to walk into a space and be like, I belong here, and people can relate to me because we have the same, like some of the same music tastes and some of these same experiences, but like not all Black folks are going to have that. So like hire Black folks like that. Don't just hire the Tamikas and the Anthonys, you know what I mean? And the Lens. So I just feel like there's a lot that needs to be said, but to create a seat at the table, people have to be willing to make space and make it welcoming. And those are not the same thing.
Small businesses, they make up, like 50% of the U.S. workforce, and there are a lot of small businesses in the coffee industry.
Yeah.
So Ian, my question to you, being a small business owner, what does a seat at the table mean for you? I mean, you touched on it a little bit. You were saying when you started out, no one was giving you the time of day. You know,
oh yeah,
you're a business, you know,
I guess
and
to me, a seat at the table is not necessarily. It's a funny term, right? Like being able to be at a position where you make decisions, or like when you look at, I guess, like a boardroom or something like that, and whatever. You know, if we look at what I think I heard somebody say, like if you walk into a board meeting and it's all women, you're gonna be like, or if it's all black people, you're gonna be like, man, something wrong here, you know. But if it's all white guys, you know what I'm saying? Maybe a white lady, you'd be like, all right, cool, we're good, you know. And then the cultural diversity manager, who probably doesn't look like any of those people, right? But so, you know, to me, even in my footwear career, I started as a kid who liked shoes, who worked at the store, and then I had a manufacturing job in the footwear world, making airbags, like literally working in the oven making airbags. And then I was a janitor at Nike headquarters. But I wanted to be at the desk. So to me, I was like, nobody's gonna give me the desk. I'm gonna go get the desk. So with coffee, I'm like, well, nobody's gonna give me a coffee shop, or nobody's gonna create a place where I feel good or where my homies feel good. So I'm gonna go do that. And so I guess the seat at the table for me is like, you know, sometimes it's there's a spot, I'm gonna put a table right here. Or, you know, maybe I don't need a table. I just use this chair. This chair's comfortable. I'm cool sitting over here by myself. And other times it's like I'm gonna grab a chair and be like, what y'all talking about? You know, and you know, but you know, similar to like what Tamika was saying, I'm from Virginia, but when we moved here, only black family in the area where I grew up in Hillsboro, Oregon. Can tell you how many times I heard the N-word, either directed at or around me, where there was clearly nobody else to be talking about. One time the police pulled me and my homie Jason over. We were riding scooters and they said, Mr. Williams, what are you guys doing out here at 11 o'clock at night? And after the officer left, Jason was like, you know him? I said, never seen him in my life. And, you know, stuff like that. Like, I've always known that it's a little bit different. So I've always been kind of comfortable in this in between, you know, twilight, whatever zone that people might call it. So to me, I guess, you know, I guess that's how I get to, I've been black my whole life as an answer, you know. I don't see it any different. I expect that it's going to be weird. I love to snowboard. I like bowling. I used to teach go-kart racing. These are all places where you you really don't see people like me. But I guess the way I get around it is to be good at it. And coffee too, huh? But the way I get around it is I do everything I can to beat you. And then when we're on the same plane, then I say, all right, you respect me now? Cool, let's go get a sandwich. You know what I'm saying? Like, just make it normal. And I think that's what I felt like I had nothing to say. And you're right, Lim, I did have a lot to say. My bad.
I just want to charge people, fuck out of here. It's not your responsibility, Ian. And that's what I hate, right? Like, it's not your responsibility to be the best at snowboarding and then have to prove yourself. And the thing is, this is stuff that we just do. Like, it's our reality. And if we want certain stuff, we're going to do it. And I'm like, you want to know what you can do to like cut that shit down? Like, you make space for people. You be welcoming. You don't make it so that people have to vouch for me, which was such a common thread in all the things that we said here. That like we needed people to vouch for us before the coffee community would engage with us. And then some coffee communities, Atlanta, are still like that. You'll be at an event and nobody will talk to you. I was at this event, this very one, last year, and I was like, am I in the Twilight Zone? Not in this black ass city, certainly.
That was
so it's like
SCA in 20. Wherever it was in Seattle one time. It was me. I walked around, and man, you would have thought I had corona. You would have thought I had corona. Corona was corona.
I'm like, excuse me. Yeah, like it was just I've never. And then your coffee community is different. Like people are friendly, people will talk to you, people will engage you. So it's like I did not have that experience. So I didn't even start having those experiences until I left, until I was at SCA for the first time, until I did, you know, and like I was like, it's 2019. How possibly could this be happening to me right now? So it's like I'm charging people to do a better job. Like you make space at the table for Black folks. You get your shit together. Sorry, Anthony.
Guys, we have gone past our time.
We're supposed to.
Which is unfortunate. But I want to give Anthony a chance to answer the same question. Anthony, I mean, you've got a wide range of skills that you've developed over the years, and you know, I'm sure that you've had some challenges along the way. Maybe if you could briefly like talk about those challenges and talk about what a seat at the table means for you.
Absolutely. I'll start with the fact that, Tamika, my experience in New York is nothing like your experience in New York. There's a reason that I worked in one place for 3+ years. You know?
I think it had a lot to do with the place, though. So I think it's depends. I think it has a lot to do with the place.
But please allow me to continue. I think that even as I like tried my hand in branching out and at least just learning more about what was going around, it wasn't really afforded to me by just people in general. I didn't really have people willing to even engage with me on the whole like, oh, you also work in coffee regardless of where you work in kind of thing.
I work for like counterculture in Stumptown, so again, the people vouching for you, right? Yeah.
That's a consistency in the experience that I've always had. It wasn't until I kind of bulldozed my way into a spot and shown that I knew what I was talking about. For example, that first job in DC, I'm coming down with my certifications. I'm coming down with the experience. I'm the only person in the room that can tell them about the inside of a GB5 because I've been dealing with it for 3 years and it's the machine that they have, and they wouldn't let me on bar kind of thing. We don't believe you know how to make coffee. Have you seen me pull a shot? Like those kind of things. And that was the experience those kind of experiences really shaped a lot of how I've conducted myself to build a career. And a lot of me learning a little bit of everything by working in roasting and production and tech and sales and doing all of that is from the space of going, I'm never going to put myself in a position where I can't provide for my family because someone is telling me I don't have the skill of this thing. If I know how to do it, you can't not give me an opportunity. And a lot of these tables, quote unquote, that I've been at, I've had a seat. It doesn't necessarily mean I've had a voice. Just because I've been at the table, it's really more so other people can feel like they've done their job. They can showcase to other people, hey, we have someone at this table. Don't ask them how they feel about being at this table. Just look that they're at this table. And that's when I had to come to the realization within myself that if this is the experience that I'm going to have, I need to be realistic with myself and not get emotionally attached to the fact that I don't have a voice at this table. I'm just going to use the fact that I have this seat to guarantee that I continue getting other seats. And the goal with that is the more that I learn and the more possible places that I can actually have a full grasp of understanding, the more people I can benefit down the road. Everything in this industry is apprentice and handpick based. It's who you know, not what you know. And then eventually you get to know because someone's decided to teach you. So the work that I care about doing is making sure that everyone past me gets to have someone to go, hey, they showed me this. So whether or not I get a voice at said table doesn't matter to me at this moment, because eventually I will make a table. But the more people I can bring to the table that look like me, that come from the background that I come from, and so that they don't have to go through the same struggles that we went through to earn their stripes, this should be a seamless opportunity for them. Because if you deserve it, you deserve it. And that's all I care about.
Word.
Get the seat at the table, make a whole new table.
Yep, exactly. And that was the whole point of bringing you all to talk today. And I think they're playing that Wrap It Up music right now.
Sandman came through. Time to roll,
Now
y'all.
you guys did know we were gonna be
Wrap it
long.
up, B.
Come
So
on.
everyone,
I knew it was gonna go way longer.
You know we were gonna be long.
yeah, I know, right?
Well, like 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
This is recorded, and everyone that's like registered should have access to this recording. I want everyone to marinate on what's been talked about today, and then join us on Monday at the coffee group, the coffee break group. You can go log on to bloomevent.org/USA-2020 and find out the information. I think is that like 12:30 Eastern. I think
9:30. That's too early for me.
Is it too early for you? What is it, 9 o'clock for you?
Yeah, man, it's 9:30, bro. It's quarantine time. I don't gotta wake up that early anymore.
Well, I mean, that's time for you to get some coffee and holler at some folks, right?
Hey, I do have to say, since my early days of going to SCA and all the coffee events and stuff like that, it is way more open and honest and accepting and all that kind of stuff. I am grateful to have been to have seen both sides. I think.
Agree.
You know,
but I'm always wary of that. Of how much is that because people know who you are. You know.
Yeah.
Like it's like that little exchange me and Anthony have. I'm like, I don't want it to be
that might not.
You know, I mean, I feel the same way. I've certainly done a lot of work myself, like volunteer work, advocacy to make SCA a more like open place. But I'm always wondering, I'm like, but how much of that is because people know at this point who we are, and how much of that is because there have been marked improvements. So remain on that, everyone.
True.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you all very much for agreeing to do this with me.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
And Tamika, thank you guys for everything y'all said. This was great. I really appreciate you too.
You guys too. Thank you.
So I think there's like a after party chat room that people can go to and hang out. D-gas.
You DJ?
No.
DJ.
I gotta do. It's like almost 8 o'clock. I gotta do bedtime. You know, I miss dinner. I miss baths. I gotta do bedtime. I gotta read some stories for the kids.
Yeah, man. I saw the sun went down in that window back there, man.
It's dark over here, guys.
I gotta be careful to drive home, son.
Man, it was looking like a few weeks ago when we had all that smoke.
Yep.
Oh.
So I think Marcus is going to take it away.
I think Bailey's gonna pop back in.
Pop back in, Bailey. It's all you.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Peace.
2 times.
I'm trying.
I look like we just gonna awkwardly look at each other for a while. It's like when you get off the airplane.
Yeah.
Hey, it was nice talking to you. And then you both gotta go to baggage claim, you know?
Yep.
Oh, it's you. I saw you on the plane. Yeah. Remember you.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Yeah.
Yeah, let's not ever look at each other ever again. Okay. Okay, bye. Bye, Ian. It was so good to see you.
Good to see you too. See ya.
Oh, no.
I don't even know.
Me either. I'm like, how do I get out of here?
I don't know what happened to Bailey. I'm looking for her, but this was amazing, you all. Thank you so much. Bailey had a script, and I don't, but I will just say thank you to everybody for being here. And we are doing this happy hour casual hangout where the attendees have a chance to show their cameras. So that link is here. Bailey's here.
Hi, sorry, I had some technical difficulties. I don't really have a script. I was just going to say the same thing you were saying, but I also really wanted to thank Ian, Anthony, Tamika, and Lem for that vulnerability. I was side chatting with a couple of people who were all really thankful to be present for that and to be able to, just like bask in your wisdom and your lived experience. And that goes for all of our panelists today. Like a huge thanks to everybody who participated for your time, for your energy. I'm just feeling really grateful for this community in a big way. Marcus, do you have anything to say?
Absolutely, yeah. What a tremendous several hours, even though it could have gone on for much longer. And I think that's certainly what will lead into not only the happy hour session now happening in the link that Monse just provided, but also Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, continuing those conversations. Remember to encourage people to still register at the Bloom link. They can receive, if they missed today's sessions, they can receive a link to log in and view and listen to what transpired over these last 3 hours. And also, of course, join us next week for the continued conversation too. But Bailey, thank you so much. Thank you to the BG for bringing this together and supporting this happening not only here in the US, but across the globe. And thanks everyone for attending and visiting with us. Thanks, of course, again to our sponsors, Pacific Barista Series, Liqueur 43, and Brewista.
Thank you, Marcus. Thanks to the US chapter. Thanks to the SCA. Thanks, everybody. This has been fun.
Have a great night.
Bye.